Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farms, and I just got a call about a brush cutting job that I need to do. And I've cut this property, I think, 4 different times. I've done it twice with my tractor, once with an old Ford tractor, and once with my skid loader. And I asked the property owner, how overgrown is this? How hard is it going to be to brush cut? And he said it's pretty thick stuff. I might want to come take a look at it. And so I have to decide, do I want to use the skid steer or the tractor to mow this property? And I thought that's a good opportunity for a little bit of a comparison between the two. And we'll just have that conversation as we go take a look at the property and see what you guys think. So I don't know what the title of this video is going to be, but if it has something to do with tractor versus skid steer, I'm really not making that full comparison today. I've already put out a video that is a complete comparison between a tractor and a skid steer that goes into cost, ease of use, availability of attachments, cost of ownership, just all the way through it. It's kind of a long video. Today, I'm just trying to decide how to get this job done, and the job I wanted to do today basically got rained out yesterday. So I'll probably go bid this and then maybe just mow the yard if it's not too wet. But I actually forgot, I've mowed this property one more time that I didn't mention, and that is with the flail mower. So I've mowed this 3 times with the tractor using 2 different attachments. And then that time I mowed it with that, I think it's an 801, Ford 801 Power Master, might be what it is, with just a rickety old brush cutter behind it. That day, it was not grown up very high like it's going to be now. I'm pretty sure this is going to be some thick stuff. So we'll talk about mowing it with my tractor, my skid steer, and then maybe what an ideal setup would be to mow this property. Anyway, let's get out there and take a look at it. I've only had a couple of jobs where I mowed a field like this with the skid loader, but when I did, I was only getting 3/4 of an acre per hour. It's because the skid loader just does not travel that fast. And so if you do the math on this property, which is 10 acres, but probably only 7 of it that needs mowed, let's actually make sure I'm doing this right. We've got 7 acres divided by 0.75 means it would take 9 hours to mow this with the skid loader. That's a lot of time invested. And 9 hours at 2 gallons per hour in the skid loader means you're going to use 18 gallons of fuel at $4 a gallon. Would be $72 in fuel. For the tractor, I said there's a range of 1 to 2 acres per hour. Let's say you can do 1.5 acres per hour on this property. So 7 divided by 1.5, it's 4.6. And the other was actually 9.3. But 4.5 hours to mow this. I think, everything's an estimate. But I think I'm going to round up because I've mowed this property before. I think we're going to be closer to the acre per hour. And we'll call this 6 hours to mow it. And in 6 hours on the tractor, I'm going to use 6 gallons of fuel. So $24 instead of $72 in fuel. Another interesting thing about those hours is there's a fuel cost. It's always a lot higher fuel cost on the skid loader, but my tractor actually depreciates at a higher dollar per hour, according to my math, than the skid steer. Because the skid steer costs a little over twice as much as the tractor, but what's considered high hours on each machine? And you need about 5 times as many hours on the skid loader to be considered high hours. And I think it's going to hold its value even better. So just my rough estimation is the tractor depreciates twice as much per hour as the skid loader does. And that seems counterintuitive, but I just can't see any way around it, because people will consider 1,000 hours pretty high on a compact tractor like that, and 2,000 hours to be really high in terms of resale value. but 2,000 hours is nothing on a skid loader. So I usually don't make my decisions based on just that cost and fuel and depreciation. I think of it in terms of enjoyment from doing the job. Which would I rather do? Well, I really prefer to ride my tractor around on this than the skid steer, but with the tractor, I'm gonna have all this dust coming in on me and it's sweaty and that's all sticking to you. Whereas with the skid steer, it's a climate controlled cab and you know, I'm clean and comfortable. I've also got better visibility of what I'm doing. So in terms of enjoyment of the job, probably depends on the weather, but I'm gonna say probably the skid loader wins there. And one reason for that is when I get into material about this heavy, I start to feel like I'm asking a lot of the tractor and I'm wearing it out more, whereas the skid loader doesn't even notice this stuff's here. It just goes. And more than wearing out the tractor, I feel like I'm wearing out my brush cutter. I have a light duty brush cutter. So the perfect machine in my mind for doing this would be if I could go ahead and get that 50 to 60 horsepower tractor with a bigger brush cutter and an enclosed cab. That would be a clear winner over the tractor I have and a clear winner over the skid steer. But since I don't have that, I've got a decision to make. Let me look around and see what the rest of the property is. Let's take a look real quick and then I'll have to make a decision. Okay, as we look at this property, I'm also thinking what's a fair price to charge someone for cutting a property like this. You got 7 acres. I know that there's not a bunch of junk buried in it. There's one fence post that I have to remember. There's one stump over here. I know where those are. It's really hilly, which is another downside to using the tractor. There are some holes and things like that if you back into those, you could end up tipping yourself, but I mean, I know the property a little bit by now. But you can kind of see what it's like here. I'm 6 foot tall, and most of this material is about 5 foot tall. I'm always looking at what is fair pricing, and that varies based on where you live. So you might have that number just dialed into a science for you, and it's not right for me where I live. And the truth is, with this customer, it's a good friend and we'll probably do some swapping. I don't know if any money will change hands. Okay, we're up on the top of the hill. There's a little clearing here and this spot's raised way above everything else. So you can really see what it looks like. So it looks like all of this property is about the same. That tall grass, it's thick, but it's not like we have trees coming up through it. The first time I mowed this, I did it with the tractor and I was cutting trees down. And that's when I decided maybe I'd be better off doing this with the skid steer. Because when it's a clear decision is when my tractor has a brush cutter rated for 1.5 inch material. And when we've got 3 and 4 inch material, you don't even have to think about it. My tractor is never going to compete with that. And I think you can get bigger tractors with brush cutters that'll handle that 3-4 inch material, but nothing in the class I'm looking at. Let me know what your brush cutter can handle. All right, we're up on this hill and I think we can see everything from here. So I'm gonna lift the camera up and just pan it around. As I edit this video and listen to myself talk, sounds like I'm afraid to mow this with my tractor, which isn't at all the case. I've mowed hundreds and hundreds of acres that looked like this with my little tractor and a lot of material that was a lot thicker. I am thinking a little bit about taking care of the machine for the long term. You know, I'm wanting to get some hay equipment and start doing my own hay on my property, and this is not very far from where I live. I could probably do this property too. But anyway, you guys have seen it and you know what equipment I have. What would you bring out here? If I do decide to use the tractor, at least I've got the mowing with the breeze helmet. I can keep some of that, maybe not breathe as much of this dust and allergens. But anyway, last thing I'm gonna do is tromp down to the low spot and see how muddy it is to find out if I can do this tomorrow or if I need to wait a week because we got a lot of rain yesterday. I don't think I need to take the camera along from that. So I'm gonna head home and do some of the type of work that doesn't make a good video. But But I appreciate you taking time to watch this video. I'll put links on the screen to a couple more of our videos, and I'll see you next time.